How much life insurance do you really need? Is 1 million enough? How about 5 million? How about 10 times your annual income? When it comes to insurance, many people have a tough time trusting financial advisors, aka the people who sell you insurance. And this is understandable because of the inherent conflict of interest. Many financial advisors would advise you to get as much insurance as you can afford, as that will maximize their commissions. This isn't their fault though, it's simply how they're trained. After all, it's their job to sell you insurance. But the good news is that even without any background on insurance, you alone can compute for how much insurance you really need without any biases. And that's what you'll learn today in this episode. With that said, let's get started with the first step. Step number 1 is identify your financial dependents. A financial dependent is someone who depends on you and your income. This could be a spouse, parents, children, siblings, or other relatives. Just list the names of your financial dependents and proceed to the next step. Now, if you are someone who doesn't have financial dependents and you're not expecting to have financial dependents in the next 12 months or so, aka children, then you can close this episode right now. You don't need life insurance at this point in your life. But for those who do have financial dependents, the next step is step 2, play out the untimely death scenario. The purpose of life insurance is to take care of those who you will be leaving behind in the event of your unexpected death. This is the scenario that you're going to play around in your mind. So you have to answer, if I die today, how do I want to take care of my financial dependents? How would I like to take care of my spouse, my children, and my parents, and anyone else who depends on my income? Review your list of financial dependents as you answer these questions. As an example, when my wife and I were computing for our insurance needs, we asked each other the same questions, and here are a few of our answers. When I unexpectedly pass away, we wanted to bring her father and sister abroad to help out my wife in arranging the stuff, and that's worth about 100K. All medical and burial expenses should be covered, about 500K. My wife should be able to go home to the Philippines for at least 6 months and not worry about finances, another 500K. She should have the option to go back to Singapore where she's currently working, about 250K. My wife should be able to afford to hire a maid in Singapore where we live right now to help take care of our baby for about 1 year. That's about 1 million. And education for our baby is set until college, 4 million. That my wife would be able to buy her own house in Alabang where she and our baby will live, about 20 million. Now, for each item on this list, we put down a quick estimate on how much it would cost. It doesn't have to be exact. Estimates are perfectly fine at this point because we can't predict everything anyway. Things might still change. The important thing is you've created a rough plan. Now, the next step is step number 3, make the good, better, and best list. For each item that you'd want to happen after the untimely death, you should classify it into the good, the better, or best cases. Good is the absolute minimum you want to cover in your insurance. Better is what would be better on top of the minimum, the nice to have. Best is the best case. So, for example, that last item about my wife having enough money to buy a house in Alabang for about 20 million, that's under the best case scenario. Then, for the better scenario, I included an extra 6 months. So, it would be a total of 12 months of her being able to stay in the Philippines without financial worry. In other words, these good, better, best scenarios represent your minimum, the nice to have, and the best to haves. And it's going to be up to you to decide where each item would fall under. Now, in our case, after we summed up everything, after doing this exercise, we arrived at the following total numbers for my life insurance. Good, meaning the minimum we would have to get, is 2 million pesos. Better was at 7.3 million pesos, and the best was at 45 million pesos. As you do this exercise, expect that you'll arrive with different numbers. What is important is that you have an idea of what you want to happen for your loved ones in the case of untimely death. Because remember, the responsibility to plan for what happens after you pass away falls only on you. It's not my job, nor the job of any financial advisor, insurance agent, or wealth coach. You have to realize that life insurance policies are just pieces of paper. The details on what happens exactly after you pass away and how you'll take care of your dependents from the grave is still your job. And that goes beyond getting life insurance. This is the reason why we don't recommend shortcuts used by many financial advisors like 10 times or 25 times your annual income. Because you can come up with a quick number, sure, but that's without any meaning. You don't have a plan. Whereas if you follow this process of really thinking through what you'd like to do, you are able to attach meaning to what your coverage represents. And you're forced to think through a plan for untimely death. Now, when you already have your 3 good, better, best numbers, it's time to proceed to the 4th and final step. Step number 4 is to estimate the financial gap. The financial gap is the difference between how much you have already saved today versus how much you'll need in the event of your sudden passing. The difference is how much you'll need in life insurance coverage. For example, if you already have, say, 2 million pesos, and based on the steps here, you found out that for the good scenario, you only needed 1 million pesos. But again, you already have saved 2 million pesos. Then that means you don't need life insurance anymore to cover for your good scenario, for your minimum scenario. It means you're already self-insured, that even if you pass away, you'll be able to cover the minimum expenses for the good scenario without external help from insurance. But say, for the better scenario, you need 6 million pesos, but you only have 2 million pesos. Then it means your financial gap is 4 million pesos. So, if you wanted the better scenario to happen, you'll need an extra 4 million pesos, which will come from the insurance. That's the financial gap. And that is the number that you tell to financial advisors. You send them a message. Hey, I'm looking for insurance coverage worth 4 million pesos. Can you send me a quote on it? And you proceed canvassing with different insurance companies to find the best deal. And that's the process to answering the question of how much life insurance do you really need? Now, while this process takes more time, you can be sure you'll arrive at an answer free from biases and conflict of interest from financial advisors. You'll come out of it with a plan you're confident in because you played out the scenarios and you did the numbers. So, if you've been delaying getting your life insurance plans in order, remember to take this 4-step process one step at a time. Talking about and planning for untimely death can be an emotionally draining activity, so space it out over a few weekends. But slowly and surely, you can move closer to having real peace of mind and financial security.